The narrative surrounding the Dallas Cowboys and Maxx Crosby was never just about a trade. It was about identity, ambition, and timing. For weeks, Dallas hovered around one of the most aggressive defensive moves of the offseason, signaling a franchise that understood its own urgency. Yet in a league where windows close faster than they open, hesitation can speak louder than action. And that hesitation is exactly what now defines this situation. When the Baltimore Ravens initially emerged as the frontrunners, it appeared the Cowboys had been outmaneuvered. But what followed changed the entire landscape. A failed medical evaluation didn't just stop a deal. It reopened a conversation that many believed was already closed. Suddenly, Dallas was back in the picture, but not in the way fans expected. The Cowboys briefly revisiting the possibility of acquiring Crosby reveals something deeper than simple interest. It suggests internal conflict, a franchise caught between the temptation of elite talent and the reality of long-term risk. That moment of reconsideration was not a move forward, but a pause to reassess everything. This is where the story shifts from transaction to philosophy. Dallas had access to medical insights others didn't, thanks to internal involvement in Crosby's evaluation. That changes the equation entirely. This was no longer about rumors or speculation. This was informed hesitation. And in the NFL, informed hesitation is rarely accidental. It's strategic. The Cowboys didn't just step back, they chose to step back. And that choice may define their entire 2026 trajectory. Before the medical concerns even entered the equation, the Cowboys were already resisting the Raiders' demands. 2 first-round picks for a pass rusher, even one as dominant as Crosby, is the kind of price that forces front offices to confront their own limits. Dallas, despite its aggressive reputation, showed restraint. Their offers tell the story. The progression from a mix of picks and players to more streamlined draft capital reveals a team negotiating carefully, not desperately. They were willing to engage, but not to overcommit. That distinction matters more than it seems. In today's NFL, elite pass rushers are premium assets, but so are first-round picks. And Dallas understands something many teams forget. Sustainability matters just as much as star power. Overpaying for one player can quietly weaken the rest of the roster. The Cowboys' refusal to meet the Raiders' asking price wasn't a failure. It was a boundary rooted in long-term thinking. Because while Crosby represents immediate impact, those draft picks represent years of controlled talent, flexibility, and cap efficiency. Dallas wasn't just evaluating a player. They were evaluating a future. And in that calculation, the numbers never aligned. The Ravens didn't just walk away. They sent a message to the entire league. When a franchise known for calculated aggression pulls out of a deal due to medical concerns, it forces everyone else to reconsider their own assumptions. The term degenerative knee issue isn't just a label, it's a long-term risk profile. It raises questions not only about availability, but about longevity, explosiveness, and consistency. For a player whose value is tied to relentless physical dominance, that uncertainty becomes magnified. Now consider the contract, $106.5 million through 2029. That's not just a financial commitment, it's a strategic anchor. If Crosby declines physically, that contract doesn't just become inefficient, it becomes restrictive. It limits flexibility, alters roster construction, and forces difficult decisions elsewhere. Dallas, with access to deeper medical insight, likely saw what Baltimore saw, and possibly more. And when you combine that with the trade cost, the equation becomes clear. High price, high risk, uncertain return. That's not a gamble. That's exposure. And elite franchises don't expose themselves without control. While much of the conversation has centered on Crosby, another move quietly reshaped Dallas' defensive outlook, the acquisition of Rashawn Gary. And this is where the Cowboys' decision becomes even more strategic. Gary may not carry the same headline value as Crosby, but he represents something equally important: balance. His presence reduces urgency. It allows Dallas to operate from a position of strength rather than need. And in negotiations, that changes everything. Teams that act out of necessity overpay. Teams that act out of leverage dictate terms. Dallas, by securing Gary, removed the pressure to chase Crosby at any cost. That alone may have saved them from a decision driven by emotion rather than logic. This isn't about choosing one player over another. It's about choosing structure over impulse. Because in the NFL, depth and flexibility often outperform singular star additions, especially when those stars come with uncertainty. Dallas didn't just pivot. They recalibrated. For years, the Cowboys have been associated with bold moves, headline decisions, and aggressive pursuits. But this situation suggests something different, a shift in mindset. Walking away from a deal of this magnitude is not easy. It requires discipline, alignment, and confidence in internal evaluation. It also requires the willingness to disappoint expectations, both inside and outside the organization. This is where leadership becomes visible. The Cowboys didn't close the door entirely, but they made it clear they are not re-engaging. That's a subtle but powerful message. It tells the league they are interested, but only on their terms. And that changes how other teams negotiate with them moving forward. It positions Dallas not as a reactive franchise, but as a controlled one, a selective one, and perhaps, finally, a patient one. This isn't just about Maxx Crosby. It's about what Dallas is trying to become. The decision to step back reflects a broader philosophy: build sustainably, avoid unnecessary risk, and trust internal evaluations over external pressure. That approach may not generate immediate headlines, but it builds long-term stability. And in a conference as competitive as the NFC, stability matters. The draft is approaching, and with it, new opportunities. The Cowboys now have flexibility, both in assets and strategy. They can adapt, pivot, and respond without being tied to a massive contract or a risky investment. That freedom is valuable, more valuable than most fans realize. Because championships aren't just built on big moves. They're built on the right moves. And in this case, not making the move might be the smartest decision Dallas has made all offseason.